Hey, I'm Bret Fadely, Mid Atlantic Auto Care Alliance, and I am sitting here with Dave Wagner, our president, Mid Atlantic Auto Care Alliance, and Matt Pierce, who has been on our tools committee trying to help establish and put together a great program that we got coming up in about 10 days. So, guys, tell us a little bit about who you are and what you're doing.
Well, like Brett said, I am the MACA president. I've been president, I'd say, about a year and a half now. Um, and yeah, that's me. I'm a mobile drivability technician, mobile programmer, do ADAS calibrations, and I got a passion for training. And, you know, like I think like most people um, that go to events and stuff like that, I think we have a passion for this industry.
Yep. How about you, Matt?
So my name's Matt Pierce. I'm a technician at a auto repair shop in Upper Darby. I've been in it for since 2007. Um, like Dave, very similar taste in automobile there. Fixing them, electrical, drivability, everything like that. Um, yeah.
So you guys are both technicians. Dave, you're mobile. Matt, you're in a shop, and you guys both mentioned training, diagnostic, electrical. How important is that to you, and how would you portray that to somebody that is trying to gain some more knowledge and skill set?
Well, I think it's very, very important, to stay up on top of everything because this industry is changing so fast that if you're not getting constant training every year, every day, trying to learn something every day, this industry is going to eat you alive. So I think it's very important to learn something. Whether it is drivability and electrical or anything else. I mean, even these advanced suspension systems and stuff. You got to keep learning these cars because these cars are changing every day, and it's just so important to stay on top of it if you want to have a future in this industry.
How
Yeah. I
about you,
mean,
Matt?
I agree with that. It's electricity, electrical, everything like that. It's integrated into everything now. I mean, you go from you had your basic suspension systems, which was strictly mechanical, and now the electronic suspension systems and even anti-lock brakes. I mean, like ADAS systems, and you get an ABS fault and you have the whole dash lit up for everything. I mean, it's integrated into everything nowadays.
Absolutely. And I've said this on several different occasions, probably not on air, but Dave, you alluded to it. This is an ever changing industry. It drastically changes. We have to keep up with this technology because it comes out, and we're basically becoming software engineers to work on vehicles. And if we don't stay up with it, you're going to be drugged behind. And nothing against the plumbing industry, but nothing has changed a lot in the plumbing as far as technology, other than some new connections and stuff like that. But we're dealing with computers. You guys mentioned ADAS, electronic steering, electronic suspension, and we have to be able to understand the code, understand and be able to try and figure it out. I mean, what do you guys think of that? It's just anybody.
Sorry, I thought you had more to say.
I
Um,
I mean, did you guys get into this thinking, okay, I'm a mechanic working on a mechanical vehicle? Did you ever see yourself diving in heavily into software diagrams and electrical and stuff like that?
so for me, I never like I started off in a dealership. So for me, like I was damn good at pattern failures on cars. I knew what was wrong with the car before it even pulled into the bay. So I was really good at making money. It wasn't until I got into the aftermarket where the guy who kind of took me under his wing actually taught me how like sensors and stuff like that work and how you can actually see the patterns on scopes and stuff like that. And it just kind of it sparked something up in my head, and I was just like, dude, this is really cool shit. And then I started realizing, it's not just square waves and AC signals and shit like that. Like this computer takes this information, computes it and spits out some sort of result that you're looking for, to make the car go down the road, or for to make the car burn clean, or to stop the car automatically so you don't crush grandma walking across the road. Like, this is really cool shit.
Yep. How about you, Matt?
I mean, early on, like when I was in tech school and everything like that, that was the main driving force for me to get into the field. I could see on the horizon, how much was changing. Just I'll give you an example. Like when I was in tech school, they said, well, this is, you can get your feet wet with this. And they give you an internship. And I worked in the dealership, and I saw the integration and how it was evolving so fast. And that's my drive for why I stay into it. I like to keep up on the curve, and I've always liked computers. I mean, like, it's kind of my age bracket. I grew up in that technology era where, computers were evolving, home computers, not even computers in cars. And I grew up in that, and it just really was a driving force for me to get into the automotive side of it. And now it's coming by so fast, like everything is moving so fast, and trying to keep up with it is what the challenge is. Trying to know when and how these systems are integrated into each other to make the correct diagnosis, and you know even fault finding and everything like that isn't correct within a lot of the service information. So you have to read between the lines and try and figure out what's going on. And that's where a lot of this training comes into, to be able to read between the lines, know how it works, and use those advanced approaches to make a correct diagnosis when, to be honest with you, the factory information is wrong. And it's it's very important nowadays, especially with the complexity and integration.
Yeah, and if we don't stay up now, Matt, you're not a shop owner, correct? You're
No,
just a
no.
technician working for a shop. Dave, you're not a shop owner. You're a self-employed mobile tech.
Correct.
So you don't have a brick and mortar. Your brick and mortar is your vehicle.
I think about a brick and mortar sometimes, and then I
Yeah.
see what shop owners go through on a day to day basis, and I say, hell with that, man.
Gotta say, give me a call, Dave.
Yeah, I don't know,
Anyway,
man. Something about employees. I see what shop owners deal with employees, and them having zero drive to get training and stay on top of things. I'd fire everybody. I'd be the worst boss in the world.
well, you bring up a good point. Matt, like I said, you're not a shop owner. Dave, you're self-employed. What drives you to continue to seek the training to stay abreast? What is that drive in you, and how would you portray that to said employees or to your boss, Matt?
Well, I mean, how I see it with my fellow technicians that I work with, and the location I'm at, we have 3 different locations. So I kind of work with all of them, on a as needed basis. But, it's tough to tell anymore how to drive technicians to get the training. It's, you know, I can't say it's monetary driven anymore, but I feel as though, some of these and I think it varies per technician. I'll start with that first. But I don't think it's entirely monetary. But in the same token, I don't know if everybody actually has the drive. And maybe there are different points in their career. Maybe that's part of it as well. Maybe it's not monetary. Maybe it is monetary. Maybe it's certain points of their career where they're just like, no, I'm not going to get involved with this anymore. We'll pass it off to somebody else that has more, you know, ability to look into it more. Um, it's a tough thing to tell, to try and see how to motivate some of these guys to get to the training. Um, I will say that it seems generational. Some of the guys that I work with that are younger, they still have the drive, I'll say. Um, when we have in house training, they're kind of guided towards one thing or another, but I don't think they also know their strengths and weaknesses on certain things either.
Right.
So,
How about you, Dave, being self-employed like that?
Well, I'll just give you a for instance. Friday, one of my last jobs I did, I was at a body shop, and since my son's home from college, I've been trying to teach him to do. Well, he's pretty good at programming domestics, but um, I work with him side by side, and I show him how I go about chasing down problems. So I was at a body shop Friday afternoon, and the body shop was adamant that he put a caliper on a 2025 Equinox, I think it was, or Traverse, and he swore ever since he put the caliper on, he's had a shit ton of lights on the dash and stuff. I checked it out. It was communication problems. So and he sees me, he's watching me look at all these diagrams, and I'm trying to show him like the connection between why this module can't talk to that module, but I can talk to both modules. So that tells me that the modules are alive. For some reason, they're just not happy with each other. I had to figure out, what network they're talking on. And I showed him how I made my test, and I showed him, I was like, look, the signal doesn't look the same on this side of the network as it does this side, you know? And I'm like, what do you think that means? And he's like, well, if you're connected to the same wire and it looks different on both sides, and they're obviously not connected someplace. I'm like, yeah, bingo. You know what I mean? So I'm like, let's try to figure out a break point someplace, and I did that. He watched me go about it, and I found two broken can wires underneath the car in about 20 minutes, and he was just blown away. And him seeing his face when I found these two wires that were broken on in a harness that was maybe like the size of maybe a silver dollar, he was just like blown away that I found the needle in the haystack so quick, and but he sees that I have a process, you know. Did I answer your question? Or did I go off track?
No, I think you hit the nail on the head. Um,
But
you need
that's
a
my drive. I see his face. I saw how impressed he was. I see how impressed that the body shop is, that I was able to get in there, fix the problem. They were able to deliver the car for the weekend, and I guess that's my drive. Is just seeing how impressed some people get when I do things that to me doesn't seem all that impressive, but you know,
Yep.
but to me it's routine now.
As a shop owner, it's a requirement for my staff to train minimal 40 hours a year, minimal. And I don't care if it's my CSR up front, my service advisor, or my technicians. And I've been in this industry long enough. The only training that was available to the technicians was on a weeknight after work for a couple hours from one of the parts suppliers or a Saturday. And let's face it, you guys don't want to really go to those classes. But since then, there's been a lot of opportunities that have been coming up that they're events, they're training events that are spreading across the country. We have one here in Lancaster in just a couple of weeks called Tools. You also have an opportunity in November called Super Saturday. And what I do is I make the investment and take my entire team to these events um, to get the training they need and also builds camaraderie. So, Matt, not being a shop owner, does your employer require X amount of training or any certifications to get to keep your employment? Does he encourage it, or do you need to ask for it?
So it's encouraged. I'll answer all those kind of in one shot. So it's encouraged. They don't require any amount of hours of training, but me and my personal outlook of it, I strive for as much as I can. I mean, that's kind of like what Dave says. That's my drive on the training aspect of it. I try and get out to as much as I can within the area. There's been times that I've flown out the vision. This past year I haven't, attended, but if there's local training like Tools or like Super Saturday, I mean, like it's a no brainer to me. Um,
Now, does he help compensate that or pay your way to it, or is it all out of your pocket?
it's a little bit of both. I'll say, when I have gone to vision with my employer, with my current employer, he paid for airfare and part of the classes, and I paid for the in betweens. He has paid for me to go to Super Saturday before. it's kind of like a mix between it. It's not 100%. I'll say that much, to be honest, but it's a fair even amount. So
And that might change some of the aspect of what you were alluded to a little bit earlier about what drives some of the techs that you, unlike you're driven by knowledge,
mhm.
but some of your fellow people that you work beside aren't driven. If it's a requirement and the shop owner is going to make the investment to pay for it, why wouldn't they take advantage of it?
Yeah, yeah.
I
I
know, I know my staff loves to go to ASGA down in North Carolina, especially when I open up the bar tab. But I guess from a shop owner standpoint, I'm trying to get to a point, and it's good to hear, Matt, from a technician who working in a shop that, unlike me, I mandatory, I pay for it, you're going.
Mhm.
Um, Dave, you're self-employed, you're driving your own ticket and your own person. I just, for me, I think it builds a team camaraderie and it brings a whole new aspect to what they call culture in your shop. And maybe that's where you try to encourage your employer to get to more of these events and see what the investment is from other shop owners that are doing the same thing that I do, making my staff attend that I'm paying for the bill.
Mhm.
Took me a while to get there. Don't get me wrong, it's not cheap to go to these events. It's not cheap.
No, not at all.
But I look at it, it's not an expense, it's an investment. I'm not only helping to build your skill set, which will in turn make you more money, which in turn makes the business more money.
That's like Jim Morton always said. Training doesn't cost; it pays.
Right.
That's
So what do you have to say, Dave, being a self-employed one man show, possibly two with your son?
Um, well, I know I am gonna try to make sure that he, hopefully next week, he's got more interest in maybe taking a class or two rather than hanging out with his girlfriend. Maybe learn something and hopefully get an idea to. But he's 18 years old, so
Yeah,
I mean,
we were all 18 once.
oh yeah, yeah. I mean, with Daddy out of town, you know, doing training, I'm sure he's gonna be like, ooh, girlfriend looks a lot better, you know.
Oh,
But I'm really hoping he wants to come out with me and sit through some classes, and hopefully a light bulb will go off in his head, and be like, wow, I think I'm starting to get this a little bit, you know. But I mean, like as far as like what Matt was saying, I started off in the same situation when I was working for my previous employer. Matt worked for him for a short time also. He was very good to me, like when I started showing interest in wanting to go to training, he saw my drive for it, and he let me run with it, and the only thing I asked of him when I first, was ready to take the dive in the training, I was like, listen, dude, just, can I take the time off? You know what I mean? Can I like use it as my vacation time? He's like, oh hell no, dude. That's like that's not even going to go towards your vacation time, And then when he saw how gun ho I was about wanting to learn more, that's when he started saying, all right, well, I'm going to help encourage this, And he picked up my airfare, you know. I think he would have paid for everything if I needed it at the time, but I was pretty blessed that he took really good care of me, for the 15 years I worked for him, and
I, I
I
think
can't
that
I
says
can't
a lot.
bitch one bit about that.
I think that says a lot about an employer that wants to
Yeah,
invest in you.
yeah.
I mean, what would you say, Matt, if your employer would say, "Hey, I'm paying your entire way"? How would that make you feel?
oh, it's awesome. I mean, that's
And if
you
you're
know,
off paid during the week that you're normally supposed to work, you're getting paid as well.
mhm. Yeah, and that's kind of where I'm at now. I mean, like it's not counted against me, vacation wise. I'm still paid, for my time off and everything like that. The for paying for the full ball of wax. I mean, yeah, absolutely. It's a great feeling, and it's the value and the feeling of investment. You feel, you're building confidence,
Would
on
that
both
make you want
aspects.
to stay a little bit more loyal to somebody that's making that investment rather than chasing a dollar sign down the road that nobody wants to pay you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yep.
And, it's good to hear that because being a shop owner, I'm trying to create that culture. Am I the best shop owner? Absolutely not. Especially trying to plan an event. It takes away from my daily stuff that I'm supposed to be doing at the shop and paying attention to my staff. I find myself being way too distracted with a lot of stuff, and that is my biggest problem is my time management. Even my coach tells me, "Hey, you need to do this and this and that," and I'm like, "Yeah, yeah, yeah, yeah." But I still make them go. I think they get enjoyment out of it going, not only just being at the event. And granted, some of the training is redundant. You might have heard it a couple different times, but you should be able to get some new nugget out of that 3.5, 4 hour session of training
Sure.
that you can implement. But like I mentioned earlier, the team building aspect of taking your entire staff to an event is priceless. It's priceless. When I was able to do it 3 years ago to take my team down to ASTA in North Carolina, it was the best experience we had. Sitting around the Airbnb after training and stuff because we got an Airbnb, we didn't stay at the host hotel. We had a great time, and I got to know the staff a little better. They got to know me outside of the work environment.
Mm.
I think that's
Now, do
priceless.
you think that made you guys tighter as a group ever since?
Absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely. It builds something a rapport, and I didn't get to do a lot of it in this winter. Like we usually try and do a couple staff nights out where, of course, they love it. It's on my time. We're going out to eat and some entertainment. But those kind of little things also help build that team camaraderie and build that culture where you want to stay loyal no matter how big that carrot is on the other side of the grass.
Hmm.
And that's kind of why I asked you that question, Matt. If somebody's making that investment and that time to create that culture, would that make you want to be a little bit more loyal rather than chasing the dollar sign that might be a little larger on the other side?
Yeah, yeah.
Now, we've alluded to it several times, training events, and we have a big one coming up. And since we become one organization, Mid Atlantic Auto Care Alliance, um, Tools was the Alliance of Automotive Service Providers event, and Super Saturday was the Mid Atlantics in November. We've put a lot of effort into this event to make it truly an experience, not just training. Um, what do you guys think? I mean, I don't think you have been to Tools last year when I kind of started to make the changes in this event to make it what it is. But I know what's coming up in a couple days at May 28th to the June 1st, we've got a lot of value built into this. We have what, two trade shows, Friday afternoon, Saturday afternoon. We're doing a women's only social because you guys were doing something with the text. What is it? Trained by Tex.
Mm-hmm.
Um, we're going to do something with them. We have a charity auction going on with SD Charities, which is Scanner Danner's charity. What else we got going on? We got all kinds of stuff going on.
Got the pool party, the kickoff.
It's called the launch party now. We got
The launch party. Sorry.
Launch Tech USA sponsored the pool party, which we're calling the launch party.
Okay.
Thursday night. Now, I came to Super Saturday last year, and I think, Dave, you and I have talked about the two events of keeping them uniquely different.
I think they have to be.
I think to get people to attend both two events in 1 year, because it's kind of what we were talking about, training. Here's two opportunities in Pennsylvania, one in the spring, one in the fall, that they can come out, and it's not that far of a drive for you. So I guess what I'm getting at, since you've never attended this event, Tools, I'm stoked as to where this event has grown from in the last year and a half since we kind of took it over and reinvigorated it. What would you guys say? What's your, I guess what's your outlook? What are you expecting to see? What do you think you're going to enjoy the most out of it?
So for my first year being at Tools, I'm looking forward to just feeling the vibe that you and your previous group has put together over the past few years. I'm really looking forward to being in a position now where I have no choice but to be there, and I'm looking forward to that.
You
Like
don't.
before I can come up with a million excuses. You know what I mean? Like, yeah,
Hey,
whatever.
Dave,
Yes,
there's
sir.
beer there.
Oh yeah, there's beer right here too, buddy.
Yeah,
Um,
but I brewed this beer.
I'm looking forward to that too. And there's a brewery right across the street too when
Yes,
we run
there is.
out. So yeah, I'm just looking forward to just seeing what this event it makes it different than every other event that I've ever been to. And even though I had a small part of this event, um, I'm just looking forward to just feeling the vibe, you know, and I'm looking forward to getting ideas of what we can do to grow it even more because it's already bigger than last year.
A
So
lot
I
bigger
can't
than
wait.
last year.
Yeah, I can't wait to see. I mean, that's what this will be the third year in a row. This is almost doubled, right? Something like
Right,
that.
right.
So
October of 23, we doubled the numbers from the failure year before. In 6 months, May of last year, we doubled those numbers, and we've already doubled the numbers from last year. So if this event can, the vision of mine was to let this event continue to grow to, let's say, ASTA like it is down in North Carolina. Let both of these events that we have going on continue to feed the Northeast. It's and make them uniquely different. That hey, I didn't get to one, but I got to get to this next one.
yeah. Oh, absolutely.
Matt, you had mentioned some of the training and that we're going to have there. What's some of your outlook or what's exciting you to attend it?
Really, I don't even know where to start, to be honest with you. There's so many small events that are going on within this whole large event. Um, Between the SD charities, the women's social, everything like that, there's something for everybody. It's there's constantly something going on. The area that it's in is great for family. Even if a lot of people are skeptical on, being away from the family for a certain period of time, you bring the family. I mean, the area is loaded with all kinds of family oriented things that you can all stay close to each other. The training is, I look at a lot of these classes, and there's a lot of these classes that I've attended, but I've had to travel double the distance to get to a lot of these classes. I've from our area, I've traveled up to New York for some of them. And to be honest with you, I'm not even going to, hate to say it, not going to stay at the hotel for the event, but I will be traveling back and forth because it's not even a long distance travel to have to stay there. You know, I don't like to say that I'm not staying there, but when you put it in perspective, it's not like you're traveling to New York or, a far distance away. It's in your own backyard.
Yep. It's not like you said you had to get a flight to go to Vision.
Yep. And that's part of the cost of the whole thing. And, speaking of the cost, a lot of these classes that you would have to travel to out of state is almost what the cost is for the entire weekend for this event.
Yes.
And that's the value that's in that.
I I I remember when we first got together and one of the questions in the committee was, how'd you come up with the pricing? Threw it against the wall, see what stuck. I don't know. But yeah, so what we've tried to do with tools is because it was a failing event in the past, is to reinvigorate it. And I never saw myself organizing an event. It's not my forte, but I guess I've become the front man of this event. And I put a lot of effort into making sure this event is changed around. And there is a vibe around it, Matt. You've mentioned it. Um, there's a lot of the big names that you see at Vision, Apex SEMA, ASTA, and some of the bigger shows that are well known that are going to be at Tools. And if we can continue to get that notice out there of not just Tools, but what Mid Atlantic is, what our industry is, and Super Saturday, I think that's where some of the grassroots start to get people excited about training, like used to guys, and make it more like, okay, if I'm a technician and I all of a sudden came across this, I'm going to go on my own dime. I go back to the shop and talk to my fellow people and maybe encourage my shop owner to make some investment in some of these training events that we got going on. And maybe that's where those wheels will start to turn. I don't know, but we got to start somewhere. And I think if we can create that experience, not just call it a training event, it's an experience where you can bring your family to an event so you're not away from them. Yeah, Dutch Wonderland, if you have small children, is an amusement park right across the street. The Tanger outlets, there's all kind of outlets in Lancaster. There's all kind of food and restaurants. Amish, go take a fucking buggy ride.
I'll
Um,
tell you what, with Dutch Wonderland right across the street, I almost wish my kids weren't like too old
old.
where they didn't want nothing to do with us anymore. You know what I mean? Like I would have loved for this event to have been around 10 years ago, and I would have brought my wife and kids and been like, "Yo, go play at the park across the street." You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
it's
And I think it would have just been awesome. You know?
and that's kind of what we're trying to do is create. Yeah, you spend a lot of time away from your family at work or going to nightly training or a Saturday training. You do spend a lot of time away. Trying to create that in these events where you can bring your family and still. I did not want to overload the schedule where it was bang, 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 bang. I wanted to allow a little bit of free time in there for people to enjoy the area. And I know our director has other thoughts about that, but I did not want to make everything back to back to back. You got to at these events, you got to create time to network, time
Yeah.
to have fun, because I get the most out of the networking opportunities that are available at these events. I truly do. And
Well,
that's
and you mentioned networking.
from.
You mentioned networking. Networking's super important because honestly, I wouldn't be where I would be today if it wasn't for networking. You know, I mean, my good buddy uh, Keith DeFazio, my first TST event I ever went to, he was up my ass. He was like, "Dude, you got to go mobile." He's like, "I could see it in you. You know, you're the next mobile guy. You got to be out there." And I'm just like, yeah, it took a lot of years for me to grow the nuts to freaking do it. You know, but you know, he pushed me for years and years. He's like, "You got to get out there." He's like, "I could see it in you. You got it. You got it." And finally, I did. You know, finally, I you know got enough things in order where I said, "All right, fine, I'm going to do it." You know, I really wish I would have listened to him a long time ago and taken the leap, but you know, being a one income family at the time, I was way more conservative. You know, I did not have the balls to try to do it on a one income. You know,
Yeah,
there was no way.
it's a scary feeling trying to make that
Yeah,
plunge.
yeah,
So let's talk about, we got Tools at the Wyndham Lancaster. Yes, it's in the central part of the state. It's not easily accessible from one of the major airports. Harrisburg's not too far away, but you're gonna have to do that. But we have Super Saturday in November. What is it? The 14th and 15th at the Radisson in
Yeah,
Trevose.
I believe so.
And what?
we call it Trevos down here in the southeast Pennsylvania, but okay,
I'm from Dover.
Dober.
Dover. But what makes Super Saturday? That's been a long time staple with the Mid Atlantic Auto Care,
Mm-hmm.
and it's a well run training event. We talked about uniquely different. What's the focus of Super Saturday? What are some of the stuff that you guys are that we're planning for Super Saturday that we can kind of allude to now?
So I think with Super Saturday, I think the vibe, and I don't know if it's because we're so close to Philly, and more in a faster pace area that maybe we focus more on, like learn constantly. Like, and we try to pack it with, just as much training as possible, and it's, I guess just that demographic. I guess it's like, what are you going to get for the value of the dollar that you're spending to get there? You know what I mean? So I think that's kind of why we try to cram in as much classes as possible, so we could say, hey, listen, you're getting this many classes for your dollar, and I think that's one of the big things that kind of makes us a little different than a lot of other events is I guess I guess being like Philly guys, we not that it's bullshit, but we try to not fill in the empty spaces with what maybe we would consider bullshit. You know what I mean? Whereas, if you really look at it from 10,000 feet, having that dead time isn't necessarily bullshit. It's good freaking networking time. You know what I mean? It's good.
Right.
It's good bonding time and stuff. But
Like last year, you guys, the Tyson Paul
oh,
fight
dude,
was on,
yeah, yeah, we ruffled some feathers with that one.
but it was good. It was an awesome idea in a down time. I know Ron Ron was looking. Why is everybody out in the middle of the hall
Yeah,
gathering?
yeah, that fat bald guy said we could do it. Sorry.
And I think that's where we need to create the unique difference between what Tools is and what Super Saturday is, and what can drive them both in the same pattern but uniquely different.
Yeah, yeah. Well, that's the thing with this industry. You know what I mean? Like, I mean, it's not just in the shop where we improvise to make things happen. I mean, here we're at a shop, and I've said it a million times to a lot of people. Even if we had trainers for whatever reason that the flight got canceled and they couldn't make it, you know, we would probably take everybody in that class and we would probably build our own class and just have a good time, and we'd still all learn from something because the guys that are out there that go to these training, we could all learn something from each other. The difference is if a trainer doesn't show up, like I said, we'll learn from each other. If they do show up, then we're paying him to learn from them.
Right.
So it's just this industry is just freaking awesome, man.
Yep. So, any last comments about training, the events, what you see the future of what we're trying to accomplish? Matt, we'll start with you.
I mean, get to it. Get to all the training that you can. If it's there, take advantage of it. You know, this field is changing rapidly. There's, like I've said, there's integration into everything now. A lot of these systems are all intertwined. Um, and that's the philosophy that I have with training is get to it. Do what you got to do, get to it. And that's why we've tried to make these events as user friendly as possible. You know, yes, the Lancaster event tools it's in the centralized portion of the state, but it's centralized that you can come from all different areas. Super Saturday is more in the Trevose area, Ben Salem area. It's more accessible from airports, but like we've said, each event has its own individuality. It's and not that I'm saying Super Saturday doesn't have anything to do outside. You have Lancaster that has more family friendly things to do. Super Saturday also, I've heard of guys going to Top Golf and all these different places. Bury the Hatchet, I've heard of that one too, where you have these team building events that you can string off of as well. Um, yeah, I mean that's my main thing with training in general is get to as much as you can, especially if it's nearby.
Absolutely. Dave?
Um, yeah, like Matt said, I mean, as far as training goes, even if you're a technician that has a boss that maybe isn't interested in paying your way, by going to training, you're only adding value to yourself. So when you add value to yourself, you know, it opens up doors for you to either maybe one day opening up your own business. Maybe there's a shop down the street that's looking for that next hotshot guy that can diagnose anything. Um, or and let me tell you, I mean, I got to tell you, like I've never asked my boss for a raise when I worked for him. He was always really cool. He saw the value that he had in me, and it's you just you got to get the training because it adds value. You're adding value. You're adding more arrows to your quiver. More bullets to your gun, whatever you want to call it. But it's the more training you have, the more value you have, and you have so much more to offer your the industry, yourself, your family. Like the more the more value you're bringing to even to your family. And that's important. Because let's face it. Let's just say someday you had a physical ailment. Where maybe you couldn't take a sledgehammer at that ball joint anymore. And maybe you got to start working with your brain. That's important stuff. You have to have enough weapons, in your arsenal to be able to get through this business, and that I think it's freaking important as hell.
It's kind of like a professional athlete that's on a free agent
Yeah,
contract. They're going
yeah,
to build their stats so they can bring more value to themselves. And that, I think, Dave, that speaks volumes. If build
yeah,
your self worth. So if your current employer doesn't want to pay you, go to these events and network, because I guarantee you're going to find technicians that are either in a little bit better situations, worse situations, or similar situations, or you might even find a shop owner that's willing to give you what you're worth.
yeah. I've been to events where people saw that I was at multiple events in different parts of the country, and I've talked with other shop owners and stuff like that. And there was a couple times, maybe definitely two, maybe three different times where a shop owner was like, "Hey, listen, I'll pay for you and your family to relocate out here." And I'm just like, "Yeah, right." And there's no way I'm selling that to my wife, but believe me, it was parts of the country that I would love to live, because I love the more quiet life, But yeah, it was there's so many opportunities out there, and the only way it's going to come is by networking and training. So
Absolutely.
you got to get your ass out there.
Well, speaking of the two events, you can go to midatlanticaca.org, click on events, and tools is there, which is coming up. It's still not too late if you want to register. Um, you can get on there and register for tools. Thursday, we have all day training classes. We have our launch party on Thursday night. Classes Friday afternoon, Friday morning, Friday afternoon, trade show Friday afternoon. It's going to be an open trade show. Friday night is the women's social. We also got some bonus sessions. I think the Train by Tex is going to be doing something Friday night as well. We have an ADAS experience that we're going to run. Saturday morning training. Saturday afternoon is our dedicated trade show. Then Saturday night, which I'm looking forward to, is our Saturday night dinner with our keynote, Josh Purnell. And then finish it up Sunday morning. So I'm kind of looking forward to it. Super Saturday, November 14th, 15th. You can go to the same website, click on the events, go to Super Saturday. I believe as soon as we get information, we'll have information available for that. That's going to be populating. We need to get through tools first. So we're
Yep.
hoping to see you there at either event or anything.
Hopefully both.
Yeah,
Yeah.
or both. I'd love to see you at both. Anything else that the MACA does, we also do training and chapter meetings throughout the year all the time. We're doing some stuff at the legislative level. So I want to thank Dave Wagner, our president, and Matt Pierce for stepping in with me here this afternoon on a Sunday as we're recording this. And we hope to see you guys at Tools or somewhere along the line this summer. And if not, in November at Super Saturday. So check us all out at midatlanticaca.org. If you're not a member, click join now. Have a good one, guys. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thanks, Brett.